So here we are again, another year and yet another online semester. And if you're anything like the majority of people, it's probably starting to take a toll both on your mental health and your school performance. But online school doesn't have to be terrible as long as you take the right steps. So in this video, we're going to be talking about those steps and how you can make your online school experience a little more bearable while still succeeding at school. First up, we'll talk about starting and ending your day right. To understand this tip, I want you to realize something. Going through a day in your school life is just like cooking a meal. Now bear with me, I promise it's gonna make sense in a second. You see, when you cook a meal, there are three main phases. The first is assembling the ingredients. The second is the actual cooking of the food, and the third is the cleanup and washing of the dishes. You see, your day is the exact same way. In the morning, you put your things aside and get ready for the day. In the middle of the day, you put in your work and do your studies. And in the evening, you put things aside and try to rest and prepare for the next day. Cooking and your day-to-day school life also share another thing in common. The start and the end of the process is some of the most important steps to pay attention to. For instance, in cooking, if you assemble rotten ingredients, no matter how well you cook it, it's still gonna turn out poorly. And the same thing near the end. If you don't put away and properly clean your pots and pans, it's gonna prevent you from getting into cooking your next meal when that time comes around. That's why your mornings and evenings are so important for your school day. If done correctly, they can set you up for success both today and in the days to come. That is where morning and evening routines come into play. These are sets of tasks that you get into the habit of doing every single day. And they don't need to be overly complicated. You don't need to do crazy things like run a 5K every morning. To give you an example, here are my morning and evening routines. In the morning, I wake up and then make my bed so that my room looks a little more tidy. I open my blinds to let the light in because I'm more productive in natural light. I hop in the shower to feel a little more energized and awake. Then I take out my to-do list and write down the tasks that I want to achieve in that day, because that keeps me on track. Then in the evening, it's even simpler. 30 minutes before my bedtime, I try to put my phone away and turn off my electronics so that I can get a better sleep. And then I clear off my work desk so that it's easy for me to get started with work the next day. These routines are nice, simple, and easy, but they have a massive impact on how well my days go. If you're having a tough time getting into the groove of online school, you should take a look at what your routines are now and make sure they match with what you want to achieve. If every morning, as soon as you wake up, you scroll Instagram for 15 minutes, maybe that's not the right ingredient you're looking for what you're trying to make. So I really want you to think about what you would need to do in the mornings and evenings to set you up for a really good day and good days in the future. Because a good routine could be the difference between you making something incredible and making something distasteful. Next up, you want to give school back its sense of importance. With your morning and evening now sorted, let's talk about your actual day. Long story short, you want to take it seriously, like if you were in an in-person class. What I mean by that is that now that your bedroom is your classroom, there are a lot of temptations that you can fall victim to. But doing these things can have a negative impact on your school experience and how well you learn. Just because no one will know if you scroll Instagram or watch YouTube while your professor is talking doesn't mean that it won't have an impact on your learning. And just because you can roll out of bed 1 minute before the class starts smelling like death doesn't mean that it's the best choice. If you were attending an in-person class, you wouldn't do any of these things. You would show up not only looking your best, but behaving your best as well. And when you make the effort to do those two things, it flips a switch in your brain telling you that this is important and I should focus. So you can do that in simple ways, like taking a shower and putting on nice clothes before class, or logging into the Zoom call a bit early, and most importantly, blocking digital distractions. You can do this by doing things like putting your phone across the room from you, by closing all the other apps on your computer so that your lecture and your note-taking software are the only things that are open there. One of my favorite things to do that really helps me tune in to my classes is to turn my camera on. Now hear me out, I know it's gonna feel awkward, but it is really worth it down the line. When I turn my camera on, because I know people can see me, I automatically and subconsciously stop doing all the other distracting things that I might have done when my camera was off. It makes me sit up straight and give all my focus to what the teacher has to say. And honestly, I credit this technique to me keeping my good grades over the pandemic. Plus, it helps you to stand out to teachers and makes you their class favorite, which doesn't hurt. Real quick, if you're getting any kind of value from this video, just take a couple seconds to press the like button. It's one of the main things that you can do to let me know I'm doing a good job. Now on to the next tip. Find ways to make online school work for you. One thing you need to understand is that online school doesn't necessarily need to be a bad thing. In fact, there are a bunch of advantages that online school have over in-person school. There are time-saving things that you can do. For instance, we all know that professor who is a notoriously slow talker. If that professor records a lecture, you can simply just skip the class and then watch the recording on ×2 speed. And boom, you've just saved yourself an hour or two. You also now have complete control over the environment that you're doing school in a way you never would have in in-person class. And you can make it completely comfortable for you. If you tend to fidget a lot, you can have a fidget toy nearby so that your hands have something to do while you're focusing on the class. If you tend to get peckish, you can also have your favorite snack and a water or tea nearby so that you can eat that during the class. And as a super secret TMI tip, now you never need to miss anything that the lecturer says if you need to go to the bathroom. Your mic is unmuted. The next one is a huge one. You want to find a group. If you try to keep yourself on track in online school with just your sheer willpower alone, you're going to have a tough time. There is only so much that your own internal motivation can do for you. So that is why you need to outsource that motivation and find a group. Whether it's online or in person, seeing somebody studying alongside with you is going to subconsciously push you forward and give you the motivation you need to also study. Now, the group that you make could really be anybody. It could be your friends, it could be people you've seen in class, or people you've worked together with. But the core thing that you need everybody to understand is that the purpose of the group is to study. If you're making your own group, I suggest reaching out to 4 or 5 people. I think that this is a good number because even if 1 or 2 people can't attend the session, that doesn't mean the session is off. You'll still have people to study with. With a study group, you'll have people to push you forward, keep you on track, and make online school feel a little less lonely. Tip number 5 is a really basic one. As human beings, we simply aren't meant to be sitting down and staring at a screen for hours on end. It wears our bodies down. And once you're worn down and feel like crap, with stiff muscles and sore eyes, you're not gonna feel good, and you're definitely not gonna feel like you want to do work. So you should take breaks frequently, at least once every hour, and make those breaks ones where you get up and stop looking at screens. Walk around your room, stretch, kick a football, and extra points if the thing that you do builds towards something, like if you do some exercise. This can also be a great time to decompress by practicing some mental health. 2 things that I really like doing is forest bathing and audio journaling. If you want to learn a little more about those topics, I've made videos on those already that you can check out after this one. Not only do breaks refresh your brain for work, it also just makes you feel better overall. So if you haven't been taking breaks and you've just been sitting down for hours on end, please, this is your sign to take a break and get up and get active. During online school, it's important to remember to take it easy on yourself. On the same note of those physical breaks that I'm talking about, it's also really important to just give yourself a break in terms of your expectations for yourself. Online school is not the same as in-person school, and it is unrealistic to keep holding yourself to the standards that you might have had in in-person school. There are a lot more challenges ahead of you that you need to solve and figure out for this type of schooling. So for you to be hard on yourself when the outside world is literally falling to shambles is a bit overkill. It's okay if you don't meet the goals that you were trying to meet. It's okay if you need to just spend a few hours or even a whole day just relaxing. In the early days of online school, there were a lot of times where I was really disappointed in my performance and disappointed in what I was not able to achieve. But what really helped me was focusing on the bit of work that I did do rather than what I couldn't get done. Because at the end of the day, if you're working towards something, you're still getting progress towards your goal. And any progress is better than nothing. Don't be too hard on yourself, because nothing is going to crash your mood and your productivity more than a bunch of negative self-talk. And as the final tip, you want to make sure you have a concrete set of goals. These make sure that you always have something to look forward to and to work towards, and you don't feel as aimless throughout your online schooling. If you want to learn all about how to make concrete goals that you'll actually stick to, I have a video about that right here. But that's all that I have for you today. I hope you have a good day. My name is Isaiah, and I hope you keep improving. Take care.